We're here to cut through the noise and really focus on the insights that work. Today, we're getting into something many of you might know well: mastering C1 English, real-life practice for fluency. You've done the work, you know the grammar, the vocabulary, but maybe you're still thinking, okay, how do I actually sound natural? How do I get that effortless flow? So our mission today is to dig into those specific strategies, some might even surprise you, that help C1 learners finally break through those plateaus. We're not just talking what to study, but really uncovering how to study smarter. Sometimes that means challenging what we thought was the best way to practice at this advanced level.
Exactly. And we've gone through quite a bit of material for this. Studies, articles, and some really compelling stories from learners themselves. What's great is these aren't just theories. We found tangible, actionable things people did. Real examples of how they shifted from just knowing English to actually, using it naturally in everyday situations. We want to share those stories with you.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The C1 plateau, it's a very real thing, isn't it? You get learners like David from our sources who know a lot, loads of words, complex grammar down pat, but they still feel, stuck when they try to speak or follow a fast conversation. Why does that happen?
It's super common at this stage. And our research pointed to a few key reasons, some maybe not so obvious. First big one, it's often not about lack of effort, but maybe effort pointed in the wrong direction. Take David. Initially, he was repeating these long, complicated textbook sentences, memorizing really rare words. He was working hard, no doubt. But that kind of practice just didn't translate into being able to, respond quickly and naturally in a real chat. It was like training for a marathon to win a sprint.
Okay. So it's less about sheer volume and more about the type of practice and how you engage with it.
Precisely. Another trap we saw was relying too heavily on very formal English. Tom, for example, he works internationally. He learned all the complex words, the formal structures for emails, presentations.
Right, the professional stuff.
Exactly. But then casual chats with colleagues, he was lost. They were using slang, idioms, much shorter sentences. That formal English, while essential sometimes, just doesn't prepare you for the relaxed, fast flow of everyday talk. It's like showing up in a tuxedo for casual coffee.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Ready for a debate, but not for just shooting the breeze about the weekend. What else gets in the way?
Oh, the fear of making mistakes. That's huge. We heard this again and again. People like Helen, James, Claire actually described it as freezing. The second he started worrying about perfect grammar, he just couldn't speak.
Wow.
Yeah, and that fear stops you from getting the very practice you need to improve. Helen felt shy. Claire hesitated in spontaneous chats. It's a massive mental block.
So that little voice in your head can actually hold you back. And for listening, where do advanced learners tend to trip up?
Well, Sarah's initial approach was really telling. She tried to catch every single word in long talks.
Oh, exhausting.
Totally. It made her nervous, tired, and ironically, she understood less. At C1, you really don't need every word. It's about the main ideas, the key details. And the last thing was information overload. Robert tried to improve everything. Vocab, grammar, listening, speaking all at once. No clear focus.
Yeah, sounds overwhelming.
It was. He just felt confused, spread too thin, and didn't see clear progress anywhere. A recipe for burnout, really.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting then. The big takeaway from all these stories seems to be a major shift, right? Real fluency isn't just about cramming more facts. It's about understanding and actually using everyday English naturally in real situations. It's changing how you practice.
Yes, that's the crucial pivot. Moving away from just memorizing lists towards active engagement and learning things in context. Think about it. Knowing how to use a phrase like "I'm feeling under the weather" spontaneously is so much more useful than just knowing the definition of under and weather.
Yeah.
Mark's story really shows this. He struggled with idioms like hit the books or spill the beans.
Right, things you can't just translate word for word.
Exactly. But when he started seeing and hearing them used in short stories or podcasts, and then, this is key, actively practiced using them himself, like saying, "I really need to hit the books tonight."
Oh, okay.
Then it clicked. They became tools he could actually use, not just abstract ideas.
So seeing language as alive in action, not just static entries in a dictionary.
Precisely. And that's the change David made. He realized the textbook stuff wasn't making him fluent in conversation. So he switched. He started listening to short, natural chats about daily stuff, ordering food, talking about work, how someone felt. And crucially, he started practicing speaking about simple everyday things with his wife, weekend plans, what happened that day, focusing on that authentic everyday rhythm. It helped him connect words and ideas much faster.
Okay, so if we're rethinking the approach, starting with listening, let's dive into some practical, concrete strategies that came out of these real-world examples. How can you really sharpen those listening skills?
One of the most powerful things was active listening. Big difference from passive. David, for instance, saw a huge improvement when he stopped just having English on in the background. Instead, he listened to a short conversation, maybe about shopping or travel, and then right away try to explain the gist of it in his own words.
So really engaging with it, processing it immediately, not just letting it wash over you.
Exactly. And related to that, Sarah's big breakthrough, letting go of understanding every single word. She consciously decided to just focus on the main idea and the important details in longer talks. David did this too, listening to radio interviews.
Okay.
He didn't catch everything, sure, but by focusing on the key points, he could follow along. That takes so much pressure off.
I bet. Just knowing you don't have to catch every little the or a.
Right. Another clever technique was predictive listening. Emma got good at this. She'd listen to the start of an interview, maybe guess the topic from the questions, and then try to anticipate what might come next. Keeps your brain active.
Sort of leaning into the conversation.
Yeah. And David also worked on using context clues. If he heard a word he didn't know, he'd challenge himself. Okay, based on the rest of the sentence, what could this mean? Then he'd check the dictionary later, maybe.
That's smart. Keeps you in the flow instead of stopping all the time. What about different accents or styles of speaking? That can be tricky.
Oh, definitely. Exposure is key. David deliberately sought out speakers from different places, UK, US, Australia, Canada. It was hard at first, he said, but gradually he got much more comfortable tuning his ear. And then there's understanding tone and what's implied. Paul, working in customer service, found this critical.
How so?
Well, learning that that's an interesting idea, said a certain way, might actually mean I don't agree.
The subtle stuff, reading between the lines.
Exactly. It helped him respond much better and avoid misunderstandings. That's a pretty advanced skill.
For sure. What about longer things, like lectures or news reports?
Effective note-taking was a big help there. Sarah developed a simple strategy. Keywords and short phrases, not full sentences. Just enough to capture the main points while listening to news or talks online. Kept her focused. And Paul also mentioned paying attention to contractions and reductions, how native speakers say, I'm not, I am, or how going to becomes gonna. Noticing those natural shortcuts really boosted his comprehension of fast speech.
Little things that make a big difference in understanding real-time talk. Okay, fantastic listening tips. Now let's flip to the other side, actually speaking. Boosting fluency. It's not just what you say, but how you say it, right? Getting practical.
Absolutely. And the number one thing, regular real-life speaking practice. Sounds obvious, but how you do it matters. David, for example, just made it part of his day. Simple chats with his wife about dinner, weekend plans, everyday stuff. Helen, the teacher, had a great habit. She'd write short notes about her day in English, then read them aloud to herself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and later she practiced telling those little stories to her husband. Small, consistent steps.
Using those existing relationships and daily routines seems really smart. What about that fear of mistakes you mentioned earlier? How did people tackle that?
That was huge for James. His turning point was deciding to just accept mistakes, see them as normal, even necessary for learning. He practiced freely with his wife, didn't censor himself, and eventually that confidence carried over to speaking with colleagues. He stopped freezing.
That's a major mental hurdle cleared.
It really is. Claire, who was okay with planned dialogues but nervous spontaneously, practiced giving quick answers, telling short stories without planning every single word, just training yourself to go for it.
So deliberately practicing being spontaneous. How else can you train your brain to just think and speak in English directly?
Self-talk. So many of them mentioned this. Helen, Sarah, James, Emma, Paul. Just talking to yourself in English, describing your morning routine as you do it, narrating steps while cooking, planning your day out loud.
Like an internal monologue but spoken.
Exactly. It trains your brain to form thoughts directly in English. James also found recording himself really useful.
Brave, but probably very helpful.
He said it was. He'd listen back, hear his own mistakes, track progress, and even try to mimic native speech or pronunciation and intonation from his recordings. Great for self-correction.
Okay, so practicing spontaneity, self-talk, recording. What about just handling those everyday moments, like ordering coffee or asking for directions?
Yeah, Daniel practiced describing things around him. Just looking at an object or a picture and describing it in English trains you to think on your feet. And Oliver's story from the bakery for Here or To Go really drove home a key point. Clarity beats speed.
Ah, yes, the classic confusion moment.
Right. He learned it's much better to speak clearly, even if it's a bit slower, and to ask clarifying questions, sorry, do you mean, than to rush and be misunderstood.
That's reassuring, actually. Especially at this level, you feel pressure to be fast, but clear is better.
Absolutely. And using fillers naturally helps too. David, Emma, James all notice this. Small words like, well, actually, they give you a moment to think, make you sound more natural, less like you're reciting.
Little conversational cushions.
Exactly. Sarah also worked on asking good questions. Not just yes, no, but open questions like, what do you think about? Keeps the conversation going, shows you're engaged.
Smart. And what about sounding, polite and fitting in socially?
Polite expressions were surprisingly important. Paul, in customer service, learned tons of phrases like, could you please, would you mind, is it okay if I, just asking, would it be okay if I sit here?
Yeah.
Instead of demanding it makes a huge difference.
True.
And shadowing several people like Sarah and Emma use this, listening to a short phrase or sentence and repeating it immediately, trying to match the speed, rhythm, intonation.
Like mimicking, almost.
Kind of, yeah. It's great for tuning your ear and your mouth to the natural sound patterns of English.
Sounds like physical training for speech.
It sort of is. And a big goal is speaking without translating in your head, training your brain to think directly in English maybe while you're cooking, walking, whatever. Giving instructions is another great practice tool. Tell someone how to make tea. You learn verbs, connectors like first, then, finally. And simply describing things, a picture, which you did yesterday. Sarah describing her shopping trip builds fluency in detail.
Okay, so we're listening better, speaking more naturally. But what about the nuts and bolts, vocabulary and grammar? How do we get good at using them, not just knowing them?
Right. This is where that contextual learning really shines, especially for idioms and phrasal verbs. Mark struggled with break the ice, put off. The light bulb moment was seeing them used in real stories or podcasts. Then, crucially, practicing them himself. Helen focused on phrasal verbs for her job, using them in chats with colleagues.
So understanding the situation where you'd use it, not just the definition.
Exactly. And collocations too, common word pairings. Helen improved a lot by learning things like make a decision, not do a decision, or make a mistake. Sounds much more natural.
Little things native speakers just know.
Yeah. And prioritize vocabulary that's useful for you. Your job, your hobbies. Helen learned gardening words. Emma made word lists themed around her nursing work. Makes it relevant and easier to recall.
Makes sense. Tailor it to your own life. What about be more precise with the words you already know?
Learning synonyms is great for that. Helen learned different ways to say happy, pleased, delighted, glad, content. Adds richness and precision. For grammar, Michael struggled with conditionals, the if sentences.
Tricky ones.
Yeah. He practiced by writing simple ones about his own life. If it rains tomorrow, I will stay home. Grounding it in his reality made it stick.
And connecting ideas smoothly, making sentences flow.
Connectors and linking words are key. Helen really worked on using words like however, therefore, although, in addition. Made her writing and speaking much clearer, more organized. And David's habit of guessing word meanings from context while reading, brilliant. He'd read an article, try to figure out unknown words, then check. Builds intuition and confidence.
Okay, we've covered a ton of great strategies. Listening, speaking, vocab, grammar. But how do you put it all together? Make it a sustainable path, not just a checklist. What does this mean for your journey listener?
Yeah, the holistic view is vital. Balanced practice. Daniel found switching between focusing on fluency, just talking freely, and accuracy slowing down, checking grammar worked well in different sessions. The big message from the research is you can't really neglect one skill. Reading, writing, listening, speaking. They all support each other, like four legs on a chair.
Right, if one's weak, the whole thing wobbles.
Exactly. And setting realistic goals is huge.
Yeah.
Robert found focusing on just one or two skills at a time was way less overwhelming than trying to do everything. Rachel had success with small weekly goals. Learn 10 new phrases, speak for 10 minutes, and she'd reward herself. Keeps motivation up.
The little wins add up.
They really do. And variety keeps it fresh. Emma, the nurse, mixed it up. Listening to health news, reading patient stories, talking about her workday, kept it interesting and covered different angles.
Sounds much less like a chore that way.
Definitely. And a big mental shift. Avoid comparing yourself to others. Helen found real peace and enjoyment when she just focused on her own progress, not worrying about other students. And weaving English into your life outside lessons is powerful. James writing shopping lists in English, simple but effective daily integration. And don't forget rest. Robert and David learned to take short breaks, go for walks during study, prevents burnout, keeps your mind fresh.
Sustainable learning, not just cramming till you drop.
Exactly. Stay curious too. David read articles on topics he liked: travel, tech, and English. Natural way to pick up new words. And review. Can't stress that enough. David, Helen, Rachel use flashcards, apps, regularly revisiting vocabulary, and grammar makes it stick long term.
That reinforcement seems critical.
It is. And feedback. Ask for it. Paul recorded himself. Others like Claire and Michael asked trusted friends or spouses for gentle corrections. You learn so much from mistakes if you're open to it. Also, understanding cultural differences in communication. Paul and Helen learned how people disagree politely in different English cultures, avoids misunderstandings, build better connections.
That goes beyond just the language itself into really communicating effectively.
Yeah, it's about nuance. James kept a learning journal, tracking words, reflecting on progress. Great for motivation. And used technology. Apps for exercises, pronunciation, dialogues like David and Sarah did. Online speaking clubs like Helen and Claire joined. So many tools available now. Finally, summarizing and paraphrasing. David, Emma, Sarah did this regularly, summing up articles, stories, conversations in their own words. Huge boost for comprehension and speaking fluency.
So the core message here for C1 learners seems really clear. It's about that big shift, isn't it? Moving from just passively knowing stuff to actively, confidently using English in real life. It's about being deliberate, patient, and practicing in ways that actually mirror how the language is used day to day. Moving from knowing English to truly living it.
That's absolutely it. Reaching that natural fluency takes consistent, smart effort. It's a journey. But using these kinds of methods, you will see progress, feel more confident, sound more natural. It's not just about learning more information. It's about learning smarter to get faster, more natural, and really confident results.
So if you're listening and you still feel a bit stuck at that C1 level, maybe ask yourself this. Is my practice truly mirroring real life? What's just one small, everyday interaction you could consciously turn into a language learning opportunity this week to start shifting your progress?